So, U.S. Soccer's Next Gen College Soccer Committee released a white paper with recommendations for major reforms to college soccer, particularly the Division One level. So, the aim to these reforms is to modernize college soccer. Their claims are to improve player welfare, reducing travel, aligning with global calendars, and potentially increasing visibility for Division One college soccer. Now, the problem with this though is um, why college soccer, right? So, how I see it is the goal for U.S. soccer, right, with our national team, but as a federation as a whole, should be to compete with the rest of the world. All right. However, we don't. Actually, for the amount of money and investment that we have in the US, we're actually very much underperforming on a global level, all right? Especially at the top level, all right? Right? We were embarrassed in Copa America. We got to the round of 16, which all right, fine in World Cup, but we're hosting this upcoming summer, all right? Right? It should be expected to put up a massive performance and to do really well in this tournament. The problem is, with our current trajectory, that does not look like to be the case. All right, and we have to look at, all right, why are we struggling to compete with the rest of the world? Not just at the senior level, but if we actually compare our youth academy systems to the rest of the world, we are very much underproducing top talent. All right, and my question is why. Um, so basically, their ideas are to use college soccer as the primary pathway into pro level football. The problem with this is the biggest thing that holds our youth academies back is this pay to play model. All right, how much talent do we lose because families and players don't have money to afford the top coaches, the top training, the top academies, and the top resources? All right, right. It's very much pay to play. All right, and in my opinion, this has been a major problem ever since the beginning of U.S. soccer. All right, in our federation, right, when we adopted the pay-to-play model, we severely handicapped ourselves. And my contention with this proposal with the white paper is if the ideas discussed in this white paper, right, if these reforms actually came into place, I think it would do more harm than good because college soccer is a massive component of the pay to play model. I believe it was the average cost of tuition in general across all levels. So uh, D1 schools, D2 schools, D3, anywhere I think it's between 16 to 34,000 a year in tuition. All right. Now, of course, if a lot of athletes, they get scholarships and all that, you're still paying. But I think then if you count the average scholarships for athletes, um, don't quote me on this. I mean, please, if anyone's watching this, fact check me. But I believe it's still over 5,000, probably closer to 10,000. All right. So if so, the feeling I get from this white paper is that they want to make Division One college soccer the primary pathway into the pro leagues, whether it be USL Championship, particularly MLS and MLS Next Pro. The problem is if this becomes a primary pathway, hidden with a hidden uh, pay to play model. All right. So you guys can fact check me, but most college players still have to pay some sort of money. All right. Still have to pay thousands just to get into college soccer. All right. So if this is our primary pathway, then isn't it kind of a disservice to our players that in order to go through this pathway that they have to pay thousands of dollars just to play pro, right? Right? In the rest of the world, a lot of the academies they're free, right? They'll invest in the player, get them to the pro level, sell them off. That's what all the clubs do. That's why every club in Europe has a youth academy. All of them, right? They produce top players, they promote to the senior team, they sell them off to go to bigger clubs. All right? And that's how they make the ROI on the players. But we have this idea that with these non-pro players that are still developing, that we should charge high prices just for them to even have an opportunity. All right. And like I said, if we make college soccer, and in a lot of ways it already is, right? It already is a primary pathway for American players already. So if it's the primary pathway and they want to bring these such reforms, why are we still going with a massive paywall? Why is our primary pathway to professional soccer for these players a massive paywall of thousands of dollars? All right. Why can't we bring reform to our youth academies? Get those to be as cheap as possible, as affordable as possible, right? And through the youth academies, through the MLS academies, right? Use those systems to provide opportunities for players. Why does it have to be college? And not only that, there's other problems with making college soccer the primary pathway as well. One, the goals, I believe, the goals for college soccer and U.S. soccer completely different. Right? Understand, the varsity teams, the varsity levels, especially at D1, but across all levels, right? What's their priority? To win. It's not development, it's to win. Simply put, it's to win, right? To win titles, all right? Right? Understand, a varsity team is like a first team, all right? There's only one priority: to win, all right? Development is secondary, all right? So if U.S. soccer wants to invest into the development of players, wouldn't it be better to suggest reform to put their focus and investments into programs where the primary focus is development? Wouldn't that be better? Right? That's my question. Wouldn't that be better? All right. Two, in college athletics as a whole, right, including college soccer, performance and playing time is tied to academics. All right. So you can have an insanely talented player. All right. You can have an insanely talented player, but maybe he's just not a good test taker and his grades suffer. You're telling me that he's going to get benched? Right? He's your top player. He performs very well, definitely a prospect for the pro level, but because he dyslexic or struggles with tests, all right, whatever the reason might be, that he's going to be benched. All right? Because the school says so. It doesn't that undermine the goals of our development systems, right? If we want to make our national team and our federation the best it could be, the most competitive to compete with the rest of the world, wouldn't it be better to prioritize talent, hard work, skill over grades? All right. And I'm not trying to no diminish the importance of education. Education is very important, but all right, if we true from a pure athletic perspective, all right, if we look at just the soccer, right, just the football, all right, wouldn't it be better to have our priority be solely to develop and produce the best players we could possibly can? All right, shouldn't that be the priority? All right, why? And then can we really fulfill that objective if we are tying our players down to academics? All right. Again, education is important, but it shouldn't come at the cost of playing time and player development, right? Like I said, a player who struggles in school shouldn't be punished by having their playing time taken away from them. All right, it shouldn't. All right, a player whose primary focus in life is to play and get to and play at the professional level, their focus should be the football. It shouldn't be the school. It shouldn't be the academics. All right, especially since in football you really don't need a college degree to get any sort of work in football. Some areas, fine, you know, it might help, but to be a coach, you don't. To be a kit man, you don't. To be a referee, you don't. All right. A lot of jobs, especially within the clubs, like in the office side of clubs, you get there off connections. All right. So again, what's the purpose of tying players down to academics over their playing time? Right? Shouldn't we have them put all their focus, if they truly want to play professional football, shouldn't we give them an environment to put all of their focus, all their time and effort into that goal? All right, that's my biggest concern, and I think our goal as a federation, as U.S. Soccer, should be to compete with the rest of the world. All right, to become a respected nation in global football. All right, to compete. All right, but if we're tying players down and holding players back from with our play-to-play model, with academics, there's of course all sorts of other reasons. All right, um, is that really? Can we really achieve our goal of being the best we can if we're holding our players back? And I feel and because of that, I feel that college soccer holds players back too much, and because of that, shouldn't be the primary path to pro. I think the primary path needs to be systems, and I believe it should be the academies, right? Make the youth academies the best that they can be, all right? So players don't need this college route, right? That through their youth academies, right? That their youth academies are tied to professional clubs, to first team clubs, and through their academies, they can reach the professional level, right? That right, and that path should be affordable. It should be based off merit on football, not academics. And I think if we want to compete with the rest of the world, that needs to be the path, right? It cannot be college. College ties players down to unnecessary things, whether it's lack of money, academics, right? College, simply put, it's just not the best path, right? Um, right. If we want to look at the top nations in the world, right? And we want to compete with them. We need to look at what they do. They don't use colleges. What they do is they have lots of clubs in many leagues. All those clubs have youth academies, right? You go to Spain, there are 5 professional levels, all right? Professional leagues. Just about all those clubs have youth academies, right? Where players can get promoted to the first teams in their clubs, all right? Or they can transfer, all right? It is affordable, right? Most of them are free, all right? And no wonder Spain produces talents like Lamine Yamal, all right? One of the best players in the world. And yet our best player, nowhere near that level, right? We don't produce enough talent. It's simply put, we have a lot of talent, we have a lot of potential, but we have yet to find a way to best cultivate that talent and really utilize it and grow it to be the best it can be. Um, and I think we need to understand that how our methodology with our other sports, such as American football or basketball, doesn't work with soccer. They don't, right? The college idea with American football worked for that sport. Why? It's an American sport. But, but our football, soccer, isn't an American sport. It's a global sport. All right? And on the global level, we're very much underperforming. We need to figure out why and make those changes. And I think the best thing we can do is to look at which countries are dominating global football and learn from them, right? Let's stop applying our American methodology from our other sports and applying it to soccer. Instead, let's adapt and adopt what we see globally in football, bring their ideas into ours so that way we can go compete with them. Because obviously this quote unquote American way of soccer doesn't work. All right, and I think we need to adapt and change. And I don't think college is the best path for that. College athletics is a very American idea, right? But is should we invest into college soccer at the cost of under reforming our youth academies, right? My opinions, no. We should put our time and effort into making the academies the best they can be, where a player going from 6 years old up into adult age, that they get an affordable path that's the best it can possibly be, with the best coaches, with the best development, with the best training. give them the best ecosystem possible to get promoted to a first team and go into first team football, right? So massive rant, massive rant. But yeah, I think if I get why U.S. soccer uh wants to change college, because for most sports that's the American way, college sports. Um, but again, soccer's isn't it's not an American sport; it's a global, and we need to find ways to compete globally. Yeah, to find ways to compete globally. Um, and I think right now we're America is kind of a laughing stock in terms of global football, and so we need to have a serious conversation. All right, how do we compete and through competition show ourselves like, okay, we actually mean business. We can go compete and we could do well in the World Cup. We could do go into Copa America and compete. That we aren't just some laughing stock. I think a part of that is we need to adopt the ideas of the top countries. All right, we need to look at them and be humble in that we acknowledge their greatness and we need to learn from them. Um, and a part of that is youth academies. Make those great. All right, college soccer not the way. Make youth academies great. Make that the primary path. It makes no sense why MLS Next Academies are not the primary path, and that you have to go from an MLS Next Academy tied to an MLS club and then go to college. Makes no sense, right? If you're in an MLS Next Academy tied to an MLS club, you should be able, right? If you're good enough, if you have the talent, if you have the skill to go from that academy team right up into the first team. You shouldn't have to go to D1 college just to get drafted. And that's a whole other thing. The draft makes no sense. It's American, it's outdated. I'm not, anti-American ideas, with soccer, but some of these ideas just I really hinder us from maximizing our potential as a country. I think we could easily be a very competitive country on a global level, but we keep doubling down on these old school systems that just don't work.